Hello, welcome back to a My Couch video. That's what I'm gonna call these. I'm gonna call these My Couch videos. I feel like Ashens right now. We're gonna talk about the opposite of what we talked about last time. I felt like it was kind of a bummer talking about games that are way too expensive, so we're gonna talk about games that are pretty damn cheap. These are all really good games. I price charted them, and they're all, I would like to say, under 10 bucks, but some of them are like 11 bucks-ish, like 12 bucks. So they're all around $10, which is great. I think that's a good price for a retro game these days. Back in the day, these games were like $1, but you know, things have changed. And getting a game under $10, a decent game under $10 is hard these days, which is unfortunate. But you know what? It's not all doom and gloom. 10 bucks to get a cool retro game, it's still a good amount of money, you know, still a good value for your price or whatever. So I got games, all sorts of games. We got games from all generations. We got even one Japanese game, but I tried to keep it to North American games. I don't own that many Japanese games, but Japanese games are generally less expensive. But yeah, we're going to start with the NES with the first game that I have here is Blaster Master. I'm sure people know what this game is, but it's really cheap and affordable still to this day. I think it's like not even, I think when I was checking it, it's like barely 10 bucks. Great deal. This is genuinely one of the best NES games in my opinion. Just killer music, really good difficulty in my opinion. Just a really good NES game. If you're collecting for the NES, this game should be like immediately on your radar. You know, this should already be in your collection, honestly, if you're collecting NES games. But if you're not and you're looking for something interesting to play on your NES, I don't know, just something random, you just so happen to get an NES secondhand or something, this is a great game to have for it. You know, 10 bucks, and it's genuinely, I'm not even kidding, genuinely one of the best games in the system. Like, objectively one of the best games in the system, in my opinion. But then I have another NES game that's one of my favorite games in the system, is Little Nemo the Dream Master. What the hell? I don't remember that. Little Nemo the Dream Master. I don't know why I have a sticker residue on it. This is a Capcom, you know, a Disney-esque Capcom game. Is this Disney, actually? I don't even know if it's technically Disney. But yeah, a Capcom game made by the guys that made probably, you know, the Disney games. And it's also really good and really unique for an NES game. And it's really cheap. Again, I think it said it was around 10 bucks. I think it maybe, again, NES games are tough. They're probably like 11 or 12. But still, if you can find, that means most of the time, all these games, I would argue, if you search far and wide enough, you could find for less than 10 bucks. A best offer here and there definitely could get this game for under 10 bucks. Great deal for this game. I think it's really fun. It's a little weird, a little janky sometimes, but it's really unique, which is why I like it a lot. It's a platformer, but it's very non-linear in the way you approach levels, and it's very cool, very stylish. Music is really good, and it's one of the better licensed games on the NES, which is actually saying something in my opinion, because there's a lot of good licensed games, but it's one of my favorites, and I just came to realize it was really cheap, so get it while you can. It's definitely one of the better ones. Yeah, you know, last time I had all these stories about how I got these games. Honestly, I don't remember how I got most of these games. I probably just found this at a retro game store for a good deal. Usually, back in the day, an NES game like this would be probably 5 bucks, not even. So honestly, 10 bucks, not that bad. I mean, some of the games we were looking at in the last video were going up 15 times in price. So, you know, double in price, you take it or leave it. It's not too bad. Good game though. I highly recommend. So yeah, I have a sticker right here. Oh my god. North 384. What does that mean? I don't know. If it's like an ARG, like it leads somewhere, who knows? So next one I have a Super Nintendo game. I only have one Super Nintendo game. Super Nintendo's decently known for being a little expensive, but this game is pretty cheap. Tetris Attack. And it is actually like my favorite game on the system. So like it is, if you don't know what this game is, it's a puzzle game, Puzzle League, if you've ever heard of that, Pokemon Puzzle League, or the little mini game that was in Animal Crossing New Leaf. This is an amazing puzzle game. It's really good. It's all about fast reflexes, all about, you know, tiling, whatever, but it's just such a, it's like a very, this is a good name for it, Tetris Attack. Tetris has nothing to do with it. I don't know why Tetris is here, but it's a very aggressive puzzle game. It's very fast paced. You have to be very reactive. You have to like time things. Like you actually have to like react and time things. You have to actually have like button input skills beyond just understanding, you know, the game. It's cool. It's cool. It's almost a fighting game level kind of understanding kind of thing. Really good game. really cheap on the Super Nintendo. This is also for like every system ever, which is probably why this is so cheap. There's a really good version on DS called Planet Puzzle League. There's the Pokemon one on N64. I'm not sure how much that one is, but the Super Nintendo one, it's a Yoshi aesthetic, which is pretty neat. And it's just good. Like, it's just a good puzzle game. I really can't recommend it enough. It's probably one of my favorite. It's actually probably my favorite puzzle game of all time, and then one of my favorite Super Nintendo games of all time. And one of my favorite Game Boy games of all time, and one of my favorite N64 games of all time, and one of my favorite DS games of whatever system it's on. It just beats that system up, the rest of that library up. So the next game, it's a Mega Drive game. So it's a Japanese game, but I think it's really cool, and it was always surprising that it's cheap, because Japanese Mega Drive games are generally mostly pretty expensive. Like, Sonic on the Mega Drive in Japan is much more expensive than it is for a North American copy of Sonic. But this game is really unique. This is the original Puyo Puyo for Sega Genesis, or Mega Drive, And this is so unique because it's, first of all, it's like a really early Puyo. It's the first Puyo game, and it's the first home console port of a Puyo game too, because these were originally made by Compile, and they released them on like old PCs and stuff back in the day. And kind of spread them around like shareware, kind of through these like discs that you could buy, like these subscriptions that like kind of like magazine, but like on a disc. Very interesting stuff. Very cool history. It's cool that this is like one of the first, home console Puyo games, and it's like dirt cheap. Like, I was seeing these in Japan when I was in Japan for like 200 yen, and I'm sure you can find an imported copy for under $10. I think I bought this at a convention for like $8 or something. So like, I'm sure you could find one. And it's a really cool piece to own. I mean, like, if you are into puzzle games, if you're into Puyo or anything, even into the Genesis in general, what a cool piece of history to own, in my opinion. Because Puyo is a very cool, very cool series. Also, the art is just so cute. It's almost worth owning just for this, nice watercolored art alone. I love the old aesthetics of the Puyo games. Very it feels like a very low budget release, which I think is cool too, but it was officially licensed by Sega, so really cool game. I don't know. In terms of Japanese Mega Drive games, this is like one of the very few I think I'd want to own, and it's really cool that it is so cheap, Highly recommend if you're looking to buy import games and such, So I got some Game Boy Advance games here, which I'll show next. I couldn't really find any Game Boy games. I was looking, but like, Game Boy games are kind of expensive. At least the ones I have. They're more than $10, usually like 20-ish. So I have two games. These are each $10-ish. So Frogger Adventures and Frogger Adventures 2, The Lost Wand. I bought these games literally last year for dirt cheap. I think I got this one for like $5 at a retro game store, and I think I got this one for $10 on like Mercari or eBay or something. Really cheap, good games. I bought this on a whim, just $5. It was in some, big bin of GBA games at a retro game store, which I highly recommend, by the way. Shuffleware is really cool, so buy it if it looks interesting. But, I had heard that these Frogger games are okay, and I played this one, and it surprised the hell out of me. It was so good. It was really, really fun. So I bought the sequel, and the sequel is even better. This game is so good. It is genuinely one of my new favorite Game Boy Advance games, and I've had this system for decades, and it's pretty cool to like discover a new game that has become one of my favorites on the system. I highly recommend playing these. And, if you want to play them on an original Game Boy, in terms of Game Boy Advance games that are worth playing that you can actually afford on its original hardware, this is pretty cool that these are as affordable as they are. Yeah, I would pick them up if I were you, if you find them for a good deal. Maybe wait until you see them for cheaper than $10, because I think this game's everywhere. I see it in like bundles all the time. I see it and I see like multiple copies in those retro game stores, big bins of GBA games and stuff. So I wouldn't spend more than $10 on this game. I think this game's a little bit more pricey, but you can definitely find it for $10. Either way, two just really surprisingly good games for good prices on this system. Another game that's like dirt cheap, which is totally worth its price, is PacMan Collection on Game Boy Advance. This game's pretty like, what do you call it? Like kind of inconspicuous in terms of its quality, because like you probably think, oh, it's just Pac-Man. But this thing has one of the only good, decent ports of Pac-Man arrangement in anywhere, which is so cool. And especially at the time, this was the only way to play it because it's an arcade game. But Pac-Man Arrangement is such an amazing version of Pac-Man, and this is the only way to play it in a lot of ways. I think it is maybe online nowadays. Like, you might be able to get it on like the Switch in some collection, but in terms of for $10, not even. I think you can find this game for even cheaper than that. For very cheap, you can. Pac-Man Arrangement is a great time. It's super, super good. And it's a kind of an inconspicuous game that you wouldn't think would be good, but you know, in here is a game that is definitely worth the asking price. And if you see it for a good price, you should pick it up. That's my takeaway. It's cool. The other games in the collection, I don't think I've even really messed with. I think I've maybe tried just like normal Pac-Man for like a few minutes, but screen crunched Pac-Man never really works too well. Like, Pac-Man Arrangement works okay because there's a lot going on, but normal Pac-Man, when you have to like scroll the screen, it just doesn't work in my opinion. But good collection nonetheless. So now I got some more home console games. We got a PS2 game here, which is Maximo for PlayStation 2. I had no idea this game was cheap. I bought this at a retro game store, I'm sure. I think I recognize the sticker. For cheap. I think there was a place that I used to go to all the time that would do a deal where it was like buy two get one free if it was under $8. So I think I found this for like $5 probably, and it was just, you know, part of one of those deals when I'd go there. It's a spiritual successor to Ghouls and Ghosts, and it is 3D. It is a 3D platforming action game, but it's similar to Ghouls and Ghosts in its like approach. It's really, really unique, and I'm actually so surprised it's so cheap. And I don't mean this as like, I hope it gets expensive. I just mean this as like a pick it up now, I guess, because I feel like if this were to get a certain amount of attention, or a certain YouTuber made a video about it or something, like it hits some kind of like interest with the retro game community, I feel like this game could go up in price. I don't know how many copies there are out there, but, you know, it's a Capcom game, a spiritual successor to a pretty niche, interested, you know, retro game. I don't know, just really unique case scenario for this game, and it's totally worth playing. It's really hard, I think, if I recall, but I think that's fitting. And it's like not even $10, if any. So I would look out for it if you can, or try to find it for a good deal. If you're interested in weird PlayStation 2 games and for some reason don't own this, it is worth your time. I also just love the art. The art's so cool. I don't know what this artist's name is, Japanese artist, but it just does really cool character design and art. Cool game. Cool game. Glad it's affordable. I'll say that. So the next game, I was looking this up. This is insane. This is insane to me. So we got Jet Set Radio Future plus Sega GT 2002 for Xbox. I'm not a big Xbox collector, but I have a few games, and this is one of them. Because Jet Set Radio Future is a pretty cool game. I own the original Jet Set Radio, so I was like, oh, well, I gotta get its sequel. Normal Jet Set Radio Future, not with another game, is like it's significantly more expensive than this version. Excuse me, this just comes with another game. Like, why is that not as expensive? I guess, like, why is this not as expensive? I suppose because maybe it's not as valuable, it's not as rare. There's less of them out there. There's less normal Jet Set radios out there. But like, if you had to choose, just choose this one. I mean, like, Sega GT 2002 is not like, you know, it's not the Rolls Royce. Oh wait, is it the Rolls? No. You know, it's not like amazing, but it's like good. It's fun. If you like racing games, I'm sure it's a fun arcade, you know, Sega racer. But then Jet Set Radio Future is really cool. It's like a really cool game. Kind of looks like, I know the hat's supposed to be kind of like I thought it looked like I'm so used to seeing like Luffy straw hat shit. So I'm like, is that like the straw hat part? Cool game. It's just so surprising. And it's like, I'm not kidding. It's like barely $10, if anything. So if you can find this for a good deal and you're looking to collect Xbox games, this is a great way to own both Sega GT and Jet Set Radio. And it's kind of cool. I don't know. What a unique case scenario where it comes with two games in the same disc. I don't know. Do not make illegal copies of this disc. You can't stop me. Yeah, pretty cool. It's weird that it's cheaper than the other versions. I highly recommend, if you see this one around, just get this one. Maybe it's because people don't know what that means. Maybe retro game fans are stupid enough to not continue reading. They're like, Sega, and they just walk away. I wouldn't put it past game collectors, including myself. That's making fun of me too. So I have a PSP game, which is kind of cool. Ape Escape on the loose. This is the port of the original Ape Escape. And the original Ape Escape isn't exactly expensive, but it's like $20-ish, I think. And this is not the best version of the original Ape Escape. There's obviously problems with it. One big one is it doesn't have a second analog stick, so you're using like buttons to use your weapons, and it doesn't feel as good. But it's still a pretty good platformer for the PSP, and Ape Escape is just fun in general. Even without the control scheme, it's still a pretty fun game. You know, a little bit less intuitive with the PSP, but you know, it's Ape Escape, and like Ape Escape is really good. And if you have a PSP and you know you're looking to play a unique kind of weird version of this game, it's like dirt cheap. It's like less than $10, so it's definitely one of my favorite PSP games. I think just, I don't know, something about it's really unique. And I played it when I was a kid, and it was really cool to play like a PlayStation 1 game on your handheld, and just felt really cool to play. So, you know, unique case. Interesting when you think about, like, a lot of PlayStation 1 games came out on PSP, but like this one they couldn't, because they couldn't just port it. Like they couldn't just release it on the PSN, so they had to kind of like retool it. So they kind of made it like a new thing. I think there's new mini games in this one too. Also, the monkeys look different. That's like something that you don't really notice. The monkeys are actually updated. They're like the more modern looking, like, what are they? What are they called? I don't know what the monkeys are called. Someone will tell me in the comments, I'm sure. But yeah, these monkeys, they're a little slightly designed differently. I guess you play table tennis. I have never done the mini games in this game. Interesting. Yeah, I don't know when I got this. I think this was one of the first games I got with my PSP when I bought a PSP back in like a million years ago. So, oh, it's a good game. Definitely worth the asking price. So now we got some DS games, which is definitely my bread and butter. This game is my go-to example whenever people talk about how all the good games are expensive now. You can't get anything good for cheap. Super Scribblenauts has something to say about that. Super Scribblenauts is genuinely one of the best games in the DS. Like, so much fun. It's a like puzzle game where you type words and you make objects out of those typed words, and there are thousands and thousands of words that you can type and, you know, create things. And Super Scribblenauts adds adjectives, which is crazy cool because it basically makes it so you can add a polka dotted winged bathtub with striped wings or something. And, you know, it all works. It's super, super, super clever. A really cool idea for a game that, like, is so unique and so its own thing. Like, I really can't think of a game like Scribblenauts at all. And the way puzzles are done, where you have to like make a solution to a problem, and it doesn't really make you do anything specific. As long as you get that thing done, you win, is so fun. Like, it is genuinely so fun. And this game, at least the last time I checked, I didn't actually check price charting because I know this game's cheap. I am not kidding. This game's like $1. Like, this game is so dirt cheap, and it's so worth it. And after this, the Scribblenauts game sucked. So like, this is the last good one. It's a DS exclusive. It's really cool, and it's so cheap. I just cannot stress that enough. This game is so damn cheap, and it's so worth your time and money. If you are interested in collecting DS games, Super Scribblenauts should already be in your collection, but if it's not, just go pick it up. I'm sure you can find it at a retro game store for like super cheap, or on Mercari or eBay. I'm sure if somebody's trying to sell this game, I'll tell you this. Here's some advice on how to buy video games. If someone's trying to sell this game for $10 on eBay, check how long it's been listed on there. Best offer them $5. They'll accept it. If it's been on eBay, if it's been sitting on eBay for like more than a year, which I'm sure there are ones for $10 that have been sitting on eBay for more than a year. And I'm saying this without fully knowing, but I'm sure. And like, if it's not, whatever. Best offer, a listing that's been there for a while, they'll probably accept it because they just want to get rid of it. I've been there. I sell games sometimes too. Picross 3D is another really cheap DS game. I think it's around $10 if I checked. This is another really unique game. Picross is really fun. I'm sure you know what Picross is. If you don't, it's a puzzle game where you do math to, you know, uncover a little like puzzle. And this one is Picross, but in 3D. So like, you can rotate a 3D object to make something, and it's hard to explain. It'd be easier to just, oh yeah, my girlfriend was actually playing. It'd be easier to just, you know, play it and see. But it's surprisingly intuitive for how complicated it might seem on the surface. But this game is so fun, and I don't think they've ever done a 3D Picross again. There might be one on the Switch, but even then, again, $10. This is a great deal for a really good time-committing, like 350 brain teasers. These things take like 30 minutes each. This is a good value of just like good puzzles, you know? Like I would buy a book of puzzles for more than $10 with this much content. So this is definitely worth it. Really unique game for the DS. So last but not least, I have some Wii games. This is kind of where the retro game like line kind of starts to end. Like if it's newer than Wii, I kind of don't consider it really retro anymore, if I'm being honest, or retro yet, which is sad because it will be soon. But I have a few games here. This game's interesting. We Love Golf, which is just kind of seems like a golf game, and I do like golf games. Golf games are really fun. This game's got some interesting stuff though. First of all, it's published by Capcom, and it's made by Camelot, which are the people that made the Mario sports games back on the GameCube. So it's good. It's a very good golf game. But one thing that makes this game so weird is you can see here, you can play as like Chun-Li. Chun-Li is not the only character you can play as. You can play as a ton of Capcom characters, including like Pearl Fay from Ace Attorney and like Apollo Justice from Ace Attorney and like Morgan from Darkstalkers. There's so many weird characters you can play as in this game. And it's like, you know, it's plays like a Mario sports game. So it's almost like this weird Capcom crossover sports game in some ways. And it's just really fascinating and it's really cheap. It's just like, I don't think a lot of people know that about it. So if you're looking for like a weird Wii game that like, you know, has some fun unlockables and stuff, and you like golf games, I mean, this is a pretty good golf game. And I'm pretty sure, oh no, it only uses Wiimote. I was gonna say, I think it has controller support, but I think it uses the Wii remote. But still, I mean, like Wii Golf on steroids, kind of just like more intense Wii Golf. I didn't get very far. I got this sort of recently. I remember I found it at a retro store, and I remember remembering that I was like, oh, isn't that the game that like Ace Attorney characters are in? Kind of a unique little Wii game. So the last one I have, this game is not very good, but it's just weird. So this is Major Minor's Majestic March, which is a mouthful. It is a marching game. You march, and it feels like shit, and it kind of plays like shit a little bit. But do you recognize the art? That's the guy who does the Parappa art. This is like the same artist, and he does a lot of stuff for like in, you know, Japanese marketing stuff, so it's not that far-fetched to be weird, but like, I don't know, for video games, he doesn't do a lot of video game stuff besides Parappa and Jammer Lammy, so seeing another video game with his art is very weird. It's just like, it feels like some lost Parappa game, and this is truly dirt cheap. I think I spent like $3 in this game on eBay, you know, for anywhere, and it's not very good, but it's a weird little unique game with a, you know, unique element to it of it being the Parappa artist, and it's cheap. So, and I know a lot of people are really like Parappa and really like, you know, that style of game or whatever. So it's like, you know, if you're collecting Parappa games, it's kind of a fun little, or collecting that kind of aesthetic, it's kind of a fun addition to that. It's very weird. The game is very weird, but I think it's worth a few bucks if you see it at a retro game store. Now it's kind of a dud to end on, but you know, just interesting. But yeah, that's kind of it for cheap games. There's probably more. There's definitely more. What am I saying? One thing that's always kind of frustrating when it comes to people who collect retro games is a lot of people, and I agree in a lot of ways, is like a lot of the fun is gone because it's so expensive. So like it's not very fun. You can't really go into a retro game store with a lot of money, especially if you like have responsibilities. It's really hard to be able to like have fun at a retro game store when you're on such a budget. It's either you're going to be buying one game for a bunch of money, or you're going to be buying a lot of garbage. But I think if you know what you're looking out for and you do some research, you can find some fun games. I mean, you know, if you're at a retro game store, do a quick Google search of a game or YouTube search of a game you see that is cheap and just be like, what is this game like? Look it up and be like, oh, that looks interesting. I'm going to buy it. That's literally how I bought like the Frogger game. Like I looked it up and I was like, oh, this game looks cool. And I just, you know, I was like, oh, Nitro Rad talked about it. Okay, I'm going to buy it. And it was like one of my favorite Game Boy Advance games. So I think there is still fun to be had retro game collecting. It's not as cheap as it used to be, not as easily accessible as it used to be, but you know, take advantage of cheaper, easier to obtain games because you know, they can be the most fun. Here, let's do this whole thing again. It's gonna be the new thing where I take a picture or whatever of a bunch of thingies. Should Should I make a Sailor Venus like the poster girl for these videos? Should I like do a funny like thumbnail where like I go like that or something, you know? Okay, focus on her. Yeah. So that's a thumbnail. You get real live action thumbnails. Isn't that cool? But yeah, hope you enjoyed this. Look at this pile of games. This probably costs like less than $100 total. Not a bad deal for a bunch of cool video games, right? Anyway, until next time, if you like these videos, let me know. If you have any suggestions, let me know. I'm always down for suggestions. Until next time, friends. Bye-bye.